Let's start immediately because we are lucky enough to enjoy the presence of very high institutional figures who are always fighting against time limits due to their engagements. So I thank you all for being here. And let's start immediately with this day of ours that has been defined as a press conference, but Massimo and myself might call a festivity day. Personally speaking, I'm here to thank the members of our company and within the range of institutions attending here at a maximum level, because on December 22nd they started a plan of revamping and extension of the trade fair district, not only significant, but that they allowed us to have an equipment not to concentrate only on the real estate, but the possibility of launching ourselves on a venture with our street companions, so to speak, around the world. So the fact of having opened up this plan of development, starting up some delicate and respectable issues that are still open, was a demonstration, and if it was ever necessary, that was a proof of great and evidence of great sensitivity that was important for the future of the Trade Fair Agency. I want to thank the Studio De Gregorio and our internal staff led by Engineer Giuliani for the great professionality and the rapidity of the work of design and economic enhancement. I was struck by their capability of innovating, but also trying to find new modernity and new spaces. They were faithful and complied with the original architecture by architect Benevolo, and unfortunately he passed away recently, and we want to thank him very much. The pavilion Benevolo, maybe I'm very peculiar in looking at them, but his pavilions are a very marked, beautiful sign of the fair district of Bologna, and I'm pleased that there was the sharing of the new architectural office contribution. So I would like us to give a look at what has been done for our architectural plan of revamping that allowed us to be here today and celebrate today. So I would ask our General Director, Mr. Bruzzone, to illustrate very rapidly the fundamental passages of this operation. And since we have the honor of his presence, I would like architect Di Gregorio, who recently has had an important commitment for the airport of Parma. I would like him to greet you here. Now, Mr. Di Gregorio shows a video that shows the interventions, and I will illustrate the 4 steps that will witness the revamping of the Trade Fair District. The first step is the destruction and reconstruction of the 2 pavilions 29-30 on an extended surface that not only allows us to take away 2 pavilions that were provisional in 1977 that have given their support for a sufficient time, but this allows us to close up a circuit at quota 6 that will make more usable 20, 18 and 15 that are the high part of our biplanar pavilions. This after the destruction after Cersaie of this year and the reconstruction for Cersaie of 2018 so that they are ready for Eima 2018. Let's go through these images. You see these are the pavilions 29 and 30 that are going to be thoroughly reconstructed. The second step, the entrance north with an extension with the construction of the area 48 of another pavilion that has been foreseen for its inception immediately after the Cersaie of 2019 to be ended by September 2020, so that Cersaie has the possibility of developing on segments that today have a difficult time in finding a place in areas that are not consistent with the logics of the itineraries of the visits. And the last step of the reconstruction and extension of the trade fair district is the part foreseen for the finalization of September 2022 is the revamping of the area of the Piazza Costituzione. In this plan, the other important thing was to say that we are going to revitalize Quota 6, two important entrances, both in Piazza Costituzione and the north entrance. So we're going to modify the entire system of logistic distribution of the trade fair district with parking as space for setting up and dismantling of the booths that we have verified both in Cersaie of last year as well as the Eima of last year. And we have received very good response because we have met the requirements of the exhibitors in this sense. And the other two entrances, Costituzione and North entrance today, we have an entrance in the Piazza Costituzione that has witnessed many glorious years in the past, but need a revamping for restructuring that should optimize both the entrance of Palazzo dei Congressi and the trade fair agency, and the entrance at the north side of the district will have a very good revamping. So the two interventions, along with the creation of itinerary at the level of 6 meters and then different circuits for the visits inside, and the creation of two important entrances that are suitable for events such as the ones we have in our calendar, will close this operation of revamping. And then, if you need more information, I am willing to give you. Now, Mr. Architect Di Gregorio, 2 words on this. I connect to the first words of Franco Boni on the concept of the pavilion benevolo. Actually, they have been the initial matrix that started the project of revamping. In what sense? In going around the trade fair, although it was many years I had not come here in Bologna, I have appreciated again and found it very pleasant to stroll that and walk around the pavilions. Not a closed environment, but a moment of relax when you walk around. If you look at the urban morphology in this general table, just a couple of words. I don't want to spend too many words on this. Here you have mixed up a little bit everything. I would like the general image, please. The one where you see the North Park. Well, let's say the city of Bologna is represented historically in some fundamental elements, the arcades, the porticos, and the internal gardens. So we have these space areas that are very pleasant and culturally precious. So examining the whole of this territory in the northern sector, we find in the north the situations that can be revitalized and revamped as it is being done in this very moment with important actions such as the Parco Nord, Tecnopolo and others. The fair was a separate, non-permeable element. So at the end of the considerations, we can say the following. We wanted the trade fair to be an element for the citizens, an urban element for the strolling, for the walking by. So it's not only a visiting of the trade fair elements, but the construction of bearing axes that are very logical, and such as the element north to south and vice versa, that allows us to revitalize also through infrastructural interventions the northern actions that, as Mr. Bruzzone just said, is very, very modest today. So these axes suggest the elements of dwelling, of stay, and I refer to the Benevolo Pavilion. So the spaces are daily spaces of enjoyment. So so that these axes, these internal elements, prove to be like a mall that can be conceived as an urban road with whatever happens from the small market and or the small exhibition or cultural events. So this is a rendering, although these are very initial renderings of this plan. But if you can show other images. In this rendering, you can see the axis that Mr. Bruzzone mentioned at 6 meters height that starts from the railway station and that is present on the northern part that connects the entire system that today is a system that is really vexed by interruptions that do not allow a continuous use. So the exhibitions live in a reduced way vis-à-vis their potential, because all the pavilions have been constructed due to needs of before. So they suffer from this inefficiency. So we want to eliminate this lack of efficiency by means of these actions, these interventions. Let's keep on looking at these slides. And so we have these green spaces that are winter gardens, and some others are in the open space, but they allow to live the internal system of the fair as well as the outside. So this is a project that on the grounds of a development matrix that will be studied also in its details in a very deep way. This allows an extension, functional as well as aesthetic, without taking care of the useless elements. This building should not have a visibility because its fruition is typically internal. So the maximum care should be addressed at these aspects, because the entire external aspect of this building vis-a-vis the logistics is another very important topic that we try to address and solve, because although reducing some maneuver spaces between one pavilion and the other, we thought of a northern space around 100,000 square meters where you can have the loading and unloading space, and Mr. Giuliano is starting to improve the fruition of the working area in addition to the visitors area. Thank you. Gianni. A couple of words on my part before giving the floor to my friend Mr. Goldoni. I have read that today is a great, great party. In fact, in the other room, they're preparing the American turkey, Thanksgiving. I think it's worthwhile spending a couple of words to say where we started from. In fact, the administration board of Unacoma, the board of directors of Unacoma was oriented to go elsewhere. We will not say where, because that trade fair is going through trouble, and we do not enjoy anybody's troubles, of course. But I wanted to care, saying that the human factor in this event was a determinant one. There are many ways to celebrate and to read this story. I prefer the interpretation of this indestructible significance and importance of the trust, the intellectual honesty, and the friendship. The president of Unacoma, my interlocutor, Massimo, is smaller than me. He's only 1.90 centimeters tall, and he belonged to my neighborhood. I would pass in front of his factory because I was directing Corgi that is very close. And all of a sudden, we were thrown into the same trench and to carry out a battle that was a determinant one. And I would say that we have been supported in a wonderful way by our right arms. By Dr. Rapastella and myself. I was helped by Dr. Bruzzone. And it was a very, very nice job. And they have been taken in by our enthusiasm without taking into account the stimuli that were coming from their attorneys. But we managed to get to the end of the story, an episode that I remember, and I like to mention it today, when I came to your assembly, because we came to you to sell something and we did not know what it was actually, and to ask for confidence and trust in the whole apparatus of the constructors of agricultural machines on the grounds of two faces that he was the president and I was a man from Emilia. I was well known, but I like to remember that moment beyond the difficulties where I was wondering whether I will be successful, yes or no. But I perceived, along with Massimo, that they really wanted to believe in this project. There was really the will to believe that we would have managed to put together this cumbersome and difficult agreement. I want to conclude very rapidly with some consideration that is more general on the Trade Fair Agency and the moment we are living. We are here to celebrate this agreement that is very nice. It's very engaging. We will have to implement what is foreseen that is going to be binding us for a long time lap, because as Mr. Calzolari says, we have to change the wheels while the car is running, so it's quite committing. But this should be a stimulus. We don't have to be left behind. Today we have to make very big real estate investments, maybe with 10 years late vis-à-vis other trade fair districts, and 10 years ago, the new district of Raw changed already, and I thank the presidents. I thank Dr. Bianchi for his attendance. He knows what is going on. But we read it on the Sole 24 Ore and Affari Finanza. We know what is going on. UFI, FEI, CFI tells us all of what is going on. There are two topics that cannot be neglected. One is the internationalization and the other is the aggregations. As to internationalization, we have all our kinds in place because in the range of the Italian trade fair agencies, and for this I thanked my predecessors, BolognaFiere, it ranks first for what it managed to realize in years with a very important presences in the areas that are most important in the world, China on the one hand and United States on the other. So we have all the cards in place, as I said, but we cannot rely on our successes because I can say that our partners gave us, in addition to the possibility of making investments, also the possibility of making investments for the development. I can anticipate that already in the coming months at international level. There's going to be some novelties by BolognaFiere. The other aspect, the aggregations. I know I am going to displease Mr. Bonaccini, who does not believe in aggregations, and it's a need. We have to put on the table whatever can be placed as common asset. We have to have strategic views that allows us to walk in the same direction, because the battle is no longer within the European circle where all the enterprises of the rest of the world would come into, but now the circles are three. We have defined it in some pages of our industrial plan, and going around the world and winning the competition, not only with against the great European competitors, first of all the Germans, but the newcomers in China and the United States. Well, this requires to be ever stronger, more competitive, and union makes us strong. So the topics that have been stressed cannot be neglected at all. To conclude, a double hope on my part. The first hope is that there should be, and there should be ever more, this beautiful brotherhood between and this association between the city and the fair. They should be one single unit. We lived some days ago some great event, BolognaFiere, and with Arziti, the city opened up and showed its beauty, its culture, its history to all the ones who were present. It was really something really beautiful. The other hope is that not only we keep on representing ever in a better way, and I hope that with this revamping of the trade fair district, the important industrial district of the area, not only the agricultural machines, but also ceramics and tiles and let's think of the Motor Valley also. But this is the most important district in Italy and one of the most important district in Europe for the packaging equipment. And so my hope is to have here also this representative. To my friends of Unacoma, who manage, along with myself, Eima, but also to the institutions who are attending us and they honor us with their presence, I would like to conclude and say what I always say to our collaborators. The wind was very strong, but we are not the ones who look for a safe harbor, but we raise our sails to be faster. Thank you. Massimo, the floor to you. Thank you, Franco, and good morning to everyone. I connect to what Franco Boni has just said, because I want to make a consideration along with all of you here that starts from this concept. things, when there are important facts to be placed in common, always start from the persons, from the people. So the person is core. And here the persons had made a big difference. So I really want to thank warm-heartedly to the ones who have interacted in this itinerary. Or, of course, starting with Mr. Franco Boni, who told us some steps of what we have done. And then I want to thank the institutions, the President, Mr. Stefano Bonaccini, with whom we have shared the values, and the Mayor, Mr. Virginio Merola, and the city that has followed up these needs, these requirements, these values that we wanted to keep up. And I want to thank the partners of Fiere Bologna who have understood and have accepted and welcomed this evolution. I want to thank the councillors and the syndics and I want to thank them all as a whole package. With great fatigue, with a lot of discussions, considerations that have allowed us to reach the result. And I get, from the operational point of view, to the structure of BolognaFiere, starting from the General Director, Mr. Bruzzone, who has been particularly precious, and to all collaborators, but also to my structure, starting from my executive director, Dottoressa Rapastella, who really has made the difference with the structure of Unacoma, who has followed stepwise the entire event. And I can assure you that it was not at all easy. In fact, the details say that in the details the devil hides. There is always something that you have to understand and improve wherever possible. Obviously, I would also like to thank the ones who have interacted with this entire evolution. So I talk about the councillor Palma Costi, who probably has already left. And I want to thank the press, the information bodies who have been representing a fundamental element, sometimes a little bit critical, but it's their job to do so, and in some instance, but they have followed up our entire negotiation and evaluations and assessments to be able to inform and to have an overall view of what we were doing. I was telling and saying, persons make the difference. This was the final evidence. With Franco Boni, we have a close experience. We have been living a close experience, and we did not even know it up to some time ago. At the beginning, it was very, very difficult. But believing in this project and by exposing ourselves personally, we asked him to come over and to come to our board meeting, our associates. You have to show up and meet our associates. They want to know what they can do and what the developments can be. And it's clear that in that moment we were making a bet on something we believed in, of course, but we did not have factual, sure elements on what could the future be. But this believing, this exposing oneself personally, this interfacing at any time and place, Saturdays, Sundays, and festivities, well, this was awarding. This was a was the prize because we understood what we were talking about at this moment. Because the point is, before we were talking about CFI, AEFI, but above all, in the latest 5, 6 years, but above all, in the last 10 years, the business model has totally changed, and also the way of facing a fair, trade fair, a fair, an exhibition must become a happening all around, where all the players, all the stakeholders participate, all the ones who have the interest in a certain industry or segment. Eima, and I come to us now, has succeeded at this intent, and I once again want to thank my association. Has demonstrated last November what it can be. We have beaten all records. We have gotten closer to 300,000 attendees, and we managed to interface ourselves with a series of foreign business people that were formidable. We created events. We have developed activities all around, and this is the result that the companies that invest, and we know now how much you have to invest into a fair, they require as a result, and this makes the exhibition a success. So this is our driver. We will never depart from this concept. So internationalization, as you mentioned before, what can be done, and on the other hand, innovation. Bologna has something nice about this because it can conjugate innovation and tradition, and this was our stronghold. We managed to innovate by rooting ourselves ever more into tradition, which is the fundamental asset for an exhibition such as ours. We sell instrumental goods. Our compartment is a traditional one. We need certainties. We need to interface with the territory. And so two persons from the region of Emilia, Romagna, could manage to find here the conjugation in order to achieve a very ambitious target. I don't want to dwell on these by talking, because today must be a party, festivity. I am very satisfied because I managed to finalize a complex issue. But from now on, we have to go really very, very fast and hard, because we have a lot to do, and we cannot disappoint anyone by not doing what we have committed for. And thank you. I want to thank the institutions that were fundamental for the success of this project. Thank you very much. Thank you, Massimo. Can we have Virginio Merola talk first? So let's listen to what the president of our region has to say. Mr. Bonaccini, I apologize, but my train is leaving for Rome. 3 fundamental things. First of all, one firm point for the coming years in order to render Bologna, and we are very proud, Mr. Merrill and myself are very, very proud, the capital of the world agricultural mechanics. The numbers are the ones you have heard. They cannot but improve and increase. We had promised, as our institutions, we had promised to intervene on the fair district, and we're going to intervene on this. Second, we had said that the exhibitions, the fairs, are a very important part of the system for the promotion of the internationalization of our territory and its marketing. And if I read yesterday's number on tourism, and the titles are record numbers in tourists, and if I read the numbers of Prometea and Union Camere have stated, then we'll see if they're going to be confirmed, that confirm that we are the locomotive of the country, numbers that are ever more optimistic than the ones expected. And we have 47,000 jobs more net of the ones that were lost. And when I said that we could create 100,000 jobs in 5 years, they were laughing at me. But let's hope that the ones who have found the job now are laughing, and even more so the ones who are going to find it. But we are leaders in our country, and we have to have the pride, the awareness, and when I hear the ones of the entrepreneurial world tell us we should do more, well, tell us how. We have undersigned the Pact on Work on all social parties with the Città Metropolitana. We are working very well, and we have said the stronger Bologna, the stronger the region Emilia-Romagna. Third point, we are not content. We are not pleased with what we have done, but we want to continue with the mandates. When they are finished, we want our region to have the unemployment rate more and better than the ones that were there before. And we want the economy, and tourists from all over the world should come here and grow. And with this exhibition, we want people from all over the world to come in, no walls, and our companies compete when they export because the labor is higher than the rest of the world, but they are really unparalleled and they cannot be copied for the manufacturing sides. So for us, it's a beautiful day, and I want to share it with the ones who have joined in this project. And as Mr. Boni just said, as we no, this is the second show in the country. There are others in this region that rank in the first 10, 11 places. And if we are together, nobody can beat us in the fair systems in Emilia-Romagna. And there should be globalization and not competition in between. So thank you for what we have done and you have done. And on behalf of the region, I am really happy to see that the bets are being maintained, and politics can be respected when it sticks to what it has promised. Mr. Mayor, Virginio Merola, also on my part, words of appreciation for this event and a recommendation. It's a day, it's a festive day. I will not answer the questions, if not the ones that regard the fair. We take for granted the things on which critics have been made and that created concerns and worries for a long time. This is a great target and it's excellent result. It was not taken for granted, but we have reached it thanks to the determination of Mr. Franco Boni, Mr. Bruzzone, and all the technical structures that have worked at it. And thank you for the determination of Mr. Goldoni and the tenacity. The human factor was important. The details were important. About the details, if you look at this scar on the face of Mr. Goldoni, well, during the negotiation was very humane and it was conducted at its best. So what can I underline more than what just the president of our region just said, that we are determined to strengthen the BolognaFiere agency, to respect this agreement in its timing, because strengthening Fiera di Bologna means strengthening the process of construction of trade fair system in the region that is competitive within the context of globalization that proves to be a little bit segmented, but we have to make some considerations in view of the novelties. With this agreement, we strengthen one of the constitutional factors of the potentials of our fair, that is the industrial supply chains, and we have the basis for more initiatives of international promotion. I want to underline the extent of this agreement and not to start the list of the problems. Once we have the positive thing, I want to dwell on it and stop at this. We are discussing with Ferrara and Modena, who share with us the trade fair system, an agreement with the Città Metropolitana and the two provinces, so that also on the trade fair system there is a representation of our metropolitan area. So we have to go ahead from this point of view for what the city of Bologna is concerned. The presentation of the architect Gregorio has told us about the revamping of an urban area, and so we see a piece of the city that is entering a total requalification, rehabilitation. The Parco Nord is going to become wood of the city. We save a green area that is going to be neighboring the new fair, and so from this point of view there is going to be precious work, not only from the architectural point of view, but also in terms of environmental sustainability. So these are the things that we enter this stage. The recapitalization of the fair has been voted and approved, and this has, of course, allowed the achievement of this agreement, and the implementation phase is going to have important pacing, but I believe we're going to be able to support it both in terms of as the trade fair agency as well as the city. These are my considerations, and I believe that they're going to be appreciated and enhanced. That this is possible. This is possible because we have a president that is the president or the general manager that makes do what they have to do. You might tell us this is taken for granted. No way. This has allowed us to change this pace, and so we managed in our industrial world to be able to grasp with Eima the factors of competitivity that our trade fair system can reach, that is going to be promoted more and more along with the metropolitan city and meeting occasion and exhibition events. I don't say that the tractors will go pass in front of the autovelox, the speed unit controls, but I don't think that I'm going to take the tractors to the Neptune statue, but there is not only Art City to involve the entire city, but agriculture is very fashionable from a certain point of view, and see the issue of FICO. And so we will have many occasions to involve the city and our metropolitan city in all these events. So thank you very much. Thank you. I want to underline it. They might say that it's taken for granted, but I want to tell you, you have been very, very good, and I will not answer on the questions about the problems and the concerns.
Grazie.
Thank you very much, Virginio. I would say, I don't know if you have any questions. No questions on the problems, on the troubles. You said you don't want to listen. I just want to have questions on this agreement, on the enhancement of this Emilian facet or feature. I, I need a microphone for the questions. How do you think you're going to address this issue for the space that is needed? For the space that is needed. He is a member of the board of directors. That's why I said all tried except for one, because he could not be the one to answer this question. The plan has its magnitude, its size, that finds in the revamping of Piazza della Costituzione one of its important aspects, because as it has been mentioned briefly by the architect, and I want to thank him once again for his presence, there is the possibility of making an overall project of revamping that involves both the entrance as well as the neighboring Palazzo dei Congressi, that thanks to the availability of the municipality, we want to relaunch and revamp, because in the future years, the Congress activity is going to be very, very important for the balance sheet of the Trade Fair Agency. So if there are not going to be any obstacles, and the delicate process regarding this real estate unit and its aggregation and the development and the implementation of the project that has been made, well, it's all welcome. This would be our favorite solution. But since difficulties might arise in the realization of the incorporation of this building, well, our technicians have already studied an alternative solution that would allow us anyway to complete our perimeter of revamping of the district, also in consideration of the Palazzo degli Affari that belongs to the Chamber of Commerce. Plan B? Plan B is simply the placement of the space to please, to meet the requirements of Eima, but not only Eima, because we have clarified extensively that Eima was the trigger, but thank God and will of the nation, we have very many other exhibitions that require more space, like Cosmoprof, Autopromotech, Cersaie, and for a few weeks now, also Motor Show. So, surely we have spaces that we have already identified, and in case there is some difficulty in the allocation or purchase, or we do not perfect the buying of the Palafari, we have already realized where we could take more space for the realization of the project. I have a question for Mr. Merola. It's not a problem. Since in March there is the deadline of the President Boni, in the light of the agreement of today, do you have anything to say for his confirmation, yes or no? Problems never come one at a time, said Mr. Boni. We are doing a good job, and in particular Mr. Boni and Mr. Bruzzoni. I think that the transition is to reach a single fair system. So it's good that Mr. Boni should accompany us in this process. I want to accelerate, along with Mr. Bonaccini, this process of creation of a system of regional holding. From this point of view, I do not see any drama on the fact that fair should be controlled by the public entity. In fact, this could help us to and determine the setting up of a regional holding, and I think we should do so, that the potential of the trade fair agency should realize in the shortest time possible, because we need very streamlined decision-making process, and also because our airport is developing and accompanying us with the process, with the opening up of new lines towards China, so we have to keep up with times. So I hope and think that it's right. Well, it's right to take over responsibilities, and my choice is going to be oriented to take over the public control of the trade fair agency, not in contraposition against privates, but as a necessary choice for a single regional system. Capitalization is needed for the fair, so I believe it's advisable to confer the Palazzo dei Congressi and not lease it, so that this can be concluded and can be presented to the industries as a granitic certainty that the regional and metropolitan system wants to continue with in the context of public control with a privatistic management. And to me, Mr. Bruzzone and Franco Boni are doing so in an excellent way. I believe that Bologna has one advantage. Let's try and get the best from all parties, and this is the best attitude. Mr. Berola said he was from Parma, but Mr. Boni says, I come from Reggio. He dissociates himself. He's not from Parma, he's from Reggio. We have to celebrate. Let's go and celebrate. Thanks to all. Thank you.